Welcome on in, you rascals. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there in Heat Nation. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. Appreciate you. Hit that like button. You guys know the drill. Leave comments, but be less sensitive than the TikTok people. Let me tell you something. So I don't get TikTok. I put up this clip from the Bam Adebayo interview, and I got a lot of people sensitive about it because of the whole Olympics thing, which, I assume there are a bunch of lousy Celtics fans who are taking it the wrong way. I wasn't even referring to Jason Tatum, my questioning of Bam Adebayo. If they get sensitive and they want to think that, well, that's on them. I don't know what to tell you. But certainly was interesting hearing Bam Adebayo open up about how upset he was about the calls for him to lose minutes at a certain point because Joel Embiid wasn't getting enough minutes and Jason Tatum wasn't getting enough minutes and all these guys who, the coaching staff wasn't utilizing as well. The best unit was the team coming off the bench, and he went out there and he responded to it, and had a really good performance. So still bothered by that very clearly, but this kind of gets our vault off point because I believe the person who did that was Brian Windhorst that went into this whole thing. And then Bam, of course, has the gift. But Windhorst has a blurb that got aggregated today. It was hitting all the Heat social media posts and Bleacher Report and all that stuff. And it was from his podcast with the Hoops Collective with Tim Bontemps and Tim McMahon, and they were talking about the Heat, kind of the same spiel. A lot of the times they do talk about the Heat, not necessarily negative, not necessarily positive, just rolling with it. And Windhorst mentions that a few things on the Heat. As far as I know, I think Jimmy Butler wants to be in Miami. His goal is to get another contract from the Heat. He also, I think, has a player option. He does, which I think his intention is to probably waive and become a free agent, but he still has that out there. So, Windhorst having the national rep that he does, you get Windhorst, Jimmy Butler wants to stay in Miami. So we'll see where that all leads, if it really means anything. I don't know. I will say this. This is a little bit of a jumping off point of where things were from Media Day. Because Windhorst does mention in the podcast, he says that, Erik Spoelstra was speaking effusively about him and had mentioned that Jimmy Butler was working out with the team. I don't think Jimmy Butler was working out with the team a lot this summer. I think Jimmy Butler was, if you guys just follow on social media, Jimmy Butler is globetrotting. Now, Erik Spoelstra did say in our interview with him that he was in contact with Jimmy Butler and that, that they had been in communication with one another. But Jimmy, I believe, was doing his own workout thing, setting up, which is fine. A lot of guys do. The Heat kind of got into a little bit of pre-camp stuff with, weeks ahead. It's not like they were spending the whole summer there. You see Bam Adebayo was doing the same thing, traveling across the country, was all over the place, Las Vegas to New York, to all these places. These guys can enjoy their summer. But getting to training camp, there's been a couple of things. One, we talked about Jimmy Butler really seeming unfazed by the whole Pat Riley thing and no selling it. He, in fact, went as far as to agree and understand publicly Pat Riley's frustration. How things were in the moment, I think even some people have mentioned, I don't think Pat Riley meant to come out of the box that strong against Jimmy Butler. It was just kind of where it went. And I think the way the media session went, and I think the way Pat Riley is, and I think the way the season ended, I just think it kind of brewed for a cocktail of that. But, Jimmy could have taken that thing a lot of directions. And yes, he did show up late to training camp or to media day, but he was there. And it's not like the media was sitting there bored for the whole day. Like he got there at a fine time. He didn't show up at 5:00. Everybody made their flight over there. And I thought, and we reacted to this, that he handled it beautifully. He really did. Goes the next day and he does a little bit of media the first day of training camp. So he's getting that out of the way. He's getting his media session. There's a lot of photos. You see the reporters who are boots on the ground there, Anthony Chang, Ira Winderman, Ethan Skolnick, all tweeting out Jimmy Butler and Spo after practice, all for the media to see, having a nice relaxed talk on the bench and are seemingly in good communication with one another. All things have really pointed to Jimmy Butler is going at this season, whether it's his last season with the Miami Heat or not. Everything has lended to Jimmy Butler wants to make this a really, really great season in Miami. That's been that has definitely been the intention early on. Then we get last night, which I know a lot of Heat fans got nutty about this during the summer because they felt like Jimmy Butler was not connected with the Heat at all. People got crazy. Why isn't Jimmy Butler congratulating Bam and Spo? And I brought you guys a clip from him back a couple of years back where Jimmy Butler was asked about Bam Adebayo while they were coming off of a finals run and was asked about Bam getting an Olympic banner. And he says, I'm a hater. Don't ask me about that type of stuff. Jimmy Butler certainly marches to his own beat, but it was, for everybody who wanted to throw hey, he's not connected enough with things, there have been very noticeable stuff from his social media, which of course Jimmy is going to want that message out there. But I do think he could either no sell it or he could put the vibes out there like, I'm okay. He's going to put out there what he wants to put out there. And I think that the message Jimmy Butler wants out there right now is, yeah, I am happy with these guys. I do want to go to battle with these guys and I do want to have fun with these guys. And so yesterday, with what looked like a Bahamas birthday party, and you had pretty much the entire crew there. Jaime Jaquez and Jay Rich is DJing, and Nico. The funniest thing by far was Jimmy Butler yelling at Nikola Jovic going swimming in the ocean because he doesn't mess with that. And I saw the clip from the Locked On boys, Wes and David, about Nico talking about he'll go and just swim at the beach and lifeguards won't let him go swim far enough, which is hilarious. But he's out there like pounding beers in the ocean. It was a great team camaraderie moment, with Alec Burks is there. Jimmy's making tomahawk steaks. Haywood Highsmith playing poker. Bam Adebayo playing cards. Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero and Jimmy playing dominoes. So that, I think, Khalil Ware, getting some hang with everybody. So everybody who would question that stuff, fine. I think that stuff was overblown over the summer, but I get why it's out there. And everybody was kind of worried if there was going to be somebody who was going to be dramatic, it was going to be Jimmy Butler, because everybody thinks Timberwolves Jimmy Butler is lurking. Everybody makes this idea of, Jimmy Butler's a nightmare. First of all, let's just say it wasn't really a nightmare in Philly. Philly was a clown show. It was their fault. I mean, they're the ones who wanted to go the route of Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris instead of investing in Jimmy Butler. I mean, that's on them. I don't know why. I don't know why Philly has turned into a Jimmy Butler fault thing. They dropped the bag on that. Minnesota, is a lot of that stuff's obviously flared up with the Cat to New York thing. And, we talked about were the Knicks even snooping around trading for Jimmy Butler if they called about trading Julius Randle to the Miami Heat. Was that their intent there? Like, were they asking the Heat, hey, we could just go get Jimmy Butler? And, man, I would not like that at all. But they end up with Karl Anthony Towns. That was certainly a burned bridge, but you think about the way that it broke down and why it did and why it was so dramatic. It's one of those infamous things, but man, what are we talking? That was 8 seasons ago. I mean, this is that at what point? That was Jimmy at 26, 27 years old. And I just think the guy's at a different point of his life. It's not that Jimmy Butler can't be testy and can't be a jerk and isn't prickly and doesn't have things that annoy people even within the Miami Heat organization. I'm not trying to paint that picture for you guys, but I think we can all agree, for anybody who is my age, the way that I was at 25 is not the way that I am and soon to be 38. you just change. You change as a parent, you change with growth, you change with experience, and you change with comfort too. And, when Windhorst says Jimmy Butler wants to stay in Miami, I think his agent and Jimmy and publicly have all been on the page of they want Jimmy Butler to stay in Miami, and they want Jimmy Butler to finish his career in Miami. They've been on the record about that. The interesting thing is how much of an effort it feels like. It does feel like publicly the effort is there from Jimmy to make nice and to make things feel like he's in a kumbaya good place. And I do think that can go a long way. Now, to be fair, if the Miami Heat go out there and they have an awful first month or an awful first couple of months and they can't still score the damn basketball and they're looking up at the Celtics and the Knicks and everybody feels like they're miles away, the Miami Heat are still going to have a question, are going to have things that they got to answer with Jimmy's future, with a lot of this core's future. Those things can still loom. But if you want to talk about laying the groundwork between what Spo said, what Jimmy said, the social media stuff, everything out there publicly, it doesn't feel at all like a guy who wants to be rats off a ship. It does feel very much like a guy who is coming back with the intent and is pissed that he was hurt while the team's biggest rival went out there and lost, or as Spo referred to him as the enemy, and wants to try and get this thing right. That competitor, whatever you want to say about Jimmy Butler, prickly, how he wasn't at other stops, the dude competes. The guy is, maybe I think his biggest flaw last year was because it was such an amazing job of the Miami Heat flipping the switch the year before and slaying the Bucks and slaying the Celtics, slaying the Knicks, slaying all these teams that everybody still looks upon as above them. I think he bought into his own mythology a little bit last year, and that was a mistake. But doesn't mean that can improve this year. There'll be questions of age. There'll be questions of what he's going to bring to the table. But I definitely think that what Jimmy is doing from a public standpoint is been in a really good spot, and I think it has been intentional, and I think it's going to be well received. So interesting. I think this Bahamas camp, although I wasn't a huge fan of the Miami Heat going to the Bahamas, I do think that they've brought the work there. And, to hear what they're doing with the offense and the intentionality, the competition that they're bringing to the table, and then seeing some of the camaraderie around has been a really good thing and has put Miami in a spot where maybe this unit together can do some good things. And certainly I do think that the start is going to be important for them, because knowing that all this stuff still is kind of even though it's been now, I think, set aside. It's not erased, but I think it's set aside for right now. I don't think that there is a lot of Miami Heat drama. I don't think that there is going to be this thing where, what's this future? What's this future? What's this future? If they stink up the joint, yeah, of course, that's basketball. It's pro sports. That's stuff. Look no further than the Miami Dolphins. Okay, Miami Dolphins came into this year, kumbaya. Owner says Super Bowl expectations, but we all realize there maybe there's some things. Now, Miami has gone in, the Dolphins have gone in a spot where everything has gone wrong. And now it's like you're starting to peek at mock drafts. It feels that kind of bad. I don't think the Miami Heat are going to be anywhere near that. But yeah, they were saying all the right things. Well, we're going to have a bully mentality. We're going to be a physical team. None of that has happened. So this Miami Heat thing of everybody's happy, everybody's best friends, we're going to score, we're focusing on more efficient shots, we're going to run a flow, fun offense. We'll see about all that. We'll see. I'm very, very happy to hear it. We do have to see it. We do have to kind of have an eyebrow raised at it to make sure that's going to be the case. But these things coming out, if Jimmy Butler had his way and had all things perfect, yeah, I think he'd like to sign a lucrative deal with the Miami Heat. Will the Miami Heat bucket that? That's what the season's going to determine. I think if this ends with Jimmy Butler hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy by the end of this thing, Well, very much. I think that the Miami Heat will give him a honeymoon contract and will be off and riding into the sunset. But that stuff is still going to be determined. It's just been really great to see that from a happiness, a vibe standpoint early in this camp situation before we get into the preseason next week. Yeah, things have looked and have gone as good for the Heat as they could have ever hoped they were, with everything that was kind of looming in the ether in the summer.